Welcome to another episode of Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is IK Grande. I am your host, and if you've watched gay porn in the past 12 years, I've definitely helped you get off. I have a very, very special guest this week. They're always special, but this one's very dear to my heart because first time we worked together was for a film in Washington, D.C. called Deep State. He is a content creator, but more importantly, a porn actor who started in porn in about 2017 or 2018? 2018. Mm-hmm. So everybody please welcome Jake Morgan.
Hey.
So Jake, thank you so much. We just shot a scene.
Yes, we did.
For Treasure Island Media with Ryan Powers, mm-hmm. where you got sucked off on that very couch.
Yes.
Yeah. I am eager to do like a podcast either on set, like while people are having sex, or like a podcast. I kind of want to do a podcast where someone's getting their dick sucked while I'm talking to them to see how long they can hold concentration. Something like that. I feel like it'd be really, really cool.
Yeah.
So how are you?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
I'm doing well.
How was your trip here?
It was great. I always love coming to New York.
Okay.
New York's a magical place for me.
What do you enjoy about New York?
I enjoy just the intensity and the energy of the city. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like nowhere else for me. I live in Chicago, mm-hmm. which is, definitely a world-class, beautiful city. Mm-hmm. But it's a little bit slower paced, mm-hmm. I think, than here. When you get here, the minute I climb up the stairs at Penn Station, you're just in it.
Yeah.
You're just in it.
Yeah, somebody pushes you out of the way, and that you're in New York.
Yes.
Yeah, Chicago's my kind of town. Not knocking on Frank Sinatra or anything, but it absolutely is. I love Chicago. If Chicago wasn't so damn cold in the winter, mm-hmm. I would have lived there a long time ago. Yeah, actually, like in 2006 or so, I went there before I started in porn to apply for jobs, and I fell in love with it. It was absolutely beautiful. I had been there before, but all it took was one winter for me to be like, I can't do this. I think I got the flu. I went there and I got the flu. So, just in case everybody, we are in New York. So New York is in the background. Until I get money or sponsors for my dog and pony show, you're going to hear New York in the background, unfortunately, or, wherever we are. But we are in the studio of Treasure Island. I want to thank Max for letting me use this space to do this podcast where we talk to porn models and discuss gay porn. We discuss porn and just stuff that's going on in the world. So, Jake, you've been since 2018. Did I break your cherry? Did I pop your cherry?
You popped my cherry.
Oh my God, that makes me feel so good. You don't even understand because I've seen you. You're all over the place now.
Yeah.
You've worked with Lucas Entertainment. You've worked with
Raging Stallion.
Okay.
Yep. Treasure Island, Raw Fuck Club, larger studios, smaller studios. Yeah.
What do you enjoy? Do you enjoy the larger studios or the smaller studios? They both have their own thing, but
I was just about to say, for me, there's something nice about either one. Mm-hmm. So, I really enjoy just kind of the nitty gritty, get down into it, mm-hmm. like Pride Studios shoots, the Treasure Island shoots. Mm-hmm. I like to kind of flex my raunchier muscles with Treasure Island. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I just did a Raging Stallion shoot with Steve Cruz out in Guerneville, California. It was a week-long shoot with tons of B-roll and story and lines, and it was really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, that's just something I'm going to remember for the rest of my life, that I got to be a part of this.
Yeah.
I got to live in a house with a bunch of porn models for a week and, have these really grueling shoot days. And, it's just, so yeah, I mean, they both kind of have an appeal to me. Mm-hmm. I love kind of experiencing the range right now.
It's entertainment.
Yeah.
It's production. It's, the nitty gritty, but you also know the bigger, what it takes to put together a huge production like that.
Yeah.
What has been your best studio experience, in the time that you've been, doing porn? Like, and by that, I mean, like everything was on cue. The directors and everybody was professional. Like you just had one of those experiences where you walked away and was like, this was fucking awesome.
I've had a few experiences like that on a few different sets.
Mm-hmm.
And the best ones are the ones where you don't even realize the camera is there, mm-hmm. when you have such a connection with your scene partner, mm-hmm. that it just flows organically. The director has to say maybe two words. It just, mm-hmm. mm-hmm. when this beautiful scene unravels in front of, the camera's eyes.
Yeah.
It's not always that way. I mean, in fact, it's kind of a rare instance, but I love when that happens. It's kind of really exciting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Have you had any bad experiences so far?
Not
Because they happen.
not as an actor. I was PAing for a mutual friend of ours, Champ Robinson. And,
Okay.
and we had we shot a scene in my apartment in Chicago, and one of the actors showed up, and he was he was a straight guy first of all, but he was a extremely high straight guy.
Oh,
and
fun.
It just his behavior was erratic. He couldn't get hard. He was treating the beautiful bottom model he was working with like absolute shit. It was just really. I couldn't wait for that scene to be over and to get this guy out of my house. But that's one time. That's like one time I've had a terrible experience like that. And luckily, I wasn't that beautiful bottom scene partner in that shoot.
You should have been. You should have kicked him out and put you in the scene.
I know.
I think I heard a little bit about this.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Oh.
It sucks. In 12 years, I think my worst experience on set was probably last year.
Yeah.
And it was with a model that just was intolerable to work with, and had worked with our studio before. And I don't know how they did it, because the minute he walked in, it was just arrogance and I can get arrogance, but if you don't perform, you take your arrogance and walk away.
Right.
So it ended up being, for the two tops, it ended up being an agonizing shoot for me. But at that point, I was kind of like, I just don't give a shit anymore. So it was fine. We made it work, but it sucks when that happens. Who has been the best? Because you're a versatile performer. What do you prefer more?
I prefer to bottom more than to top.
Why is that?
I just think that's naturally where I go. I think I was a bottom more historically throughout my life, and as I've gotten older, I've become more versatile. So I definitely do enjoy the top. I enjoy fucking, but I think there's just this kind of like innate, natural, like my legs go up in the air when I see like a really beautiful cock.
Do you? I really want to do an episode at one point about bottoming, because it's, it comes up a lot, and, the whole process of bottoming and all that crazy shit.
Yeah.
No pun, but it's an interesting, situation. You get tops that just are all out tops, and then you get people that really do love to bottom. But then, one of the rare things, I always say that finding tops that want to perform in porn in New York is like looking for a unicorn. You find them, but you've already worked with them. Like finding new guys that you want to like bring in is very hard. But one of the harder things to do is find a versatile actor, like a truly verse. Because a lot of times you'll get, oh yeah, well I'm versed, and then they get on set and they can't really get hard, or they just can't. They don't bring it.
Yeah.
All right. So you enjoy bottoming.
Yeah. And flipping. I love flipping. I do.
Who has been your favorite top so far?
My favorite top.
That you can think of off the top of your head. Like, I mean, I'm sure you've had a good amount of them, but one of them that sticks out to you that's like, wow, that was an awesome scene.
Well, there's an actor named Jack Dixon who lives in San Francisco, and I did a one-on-one scene with him in New Orleans last year. And that was one of those scenes I was kind of talking about earlier, where just everything just organically flowed. Nick Moretti was the director for that one, and he I don't think he said a word. I think he just let us go, and this whole beautiful scene unraveled, and it ended up being like on Hot Older Males, like it was for Pantheon. Ended up being like one of their #1 scenes for a long time.
Sweet.
It was kind of like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was kind of good chemistry with him.
Okay.
So
who's been your favorite bottom?
Favorite bottom. Let's see. I have to think a little harder about this one.
You've had plenty.
I've had plenty. There's a guy named Franco Nunez.
Okay.
Who lives in LA. And I shot for it was Cutler's Den.
Okay.
And I shot for out there in LA for that. And I wasn't sure. I'd never met him. I couldn't really find him online, and then when I showed up to the set, he was this beautiful Latino boy, and he just spread his ass wide for me.
Well, how'd you come up with your porn name?
That was interesting. So I was sitting on the beach with my boyfriend at the time, and I actually was an escort before I was a porn actor, and so I was getting my Rent Men profile ready to go, and so we were sitting there trying to decide on what kind of a name sounded good for an escort, and I always thought Jake was a really sexy name. I knew I wanted to be a Jake, and then it was just a matter of like finding a last name that didn't sound like too like hackneyed porn star, but also still was kind of hot. So we ended up going through my Facebook friends and looking at their last names, and then I found this really hot daddy that lives in San Francisco that I had played with a while ago, and his last name was Morgan. So I thought, oh, that's what I want to be. I'm going to be Jake Morgan.
Jake Morgan. There you go.
That's how we came up.
If you had come up with your porn name through your first pet and the street you grew up on, what would your porn name be?
Penny Hennepin.
Penny what?
Penny Hennepin.
Penny Hennepin.
Yeah.
It does roll.
It
flows.
Yeah.
So before you were a porn star, before you became an escort, what was life like? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a really small town in Illinois, called Granville. It's one of those towns where there's no stoplights, there's no McDonald's, there's 1,300 people. You can stand at the four-corner intersection in the middle of town and look in all four directions and see cornfields that surround the city. So it was very different.
Was it fun? Like, was it?
Well, it's just very small. So there's like one, there's kind of one crowd. You either fit into it or you don't.
Okay.
I did not.
Did you come out while you were living there, or?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was gay pretty much since I was born, but yeah, I kind of had a difficult coming out in high school. I finally started announcing it senior year, like the last semester of senior year. But yeah, I mean, it was a struggle. I mean, there were no gay role models. It was 1990, 1989,
RuPaul is probably all you had.
I didn't even have that. I mean, I was, we don't get the media you get in the city out there. It's
wow. Okay.
It's just a little, and RuPaul wasn't really she was barely a thing then.
Yeah. Well, so 93, I think, was Supermodel or
something like that. Yeah. So,
So
yeah, I mean, I definitely had no, masculine role models as gay men. I only saw what was portrayed on TV, and they were usually very effeminate, and which is fine. Be what you want to be in these days. But it was very confusing to me because I thought, well, I didn't really identify with that, and so I just didn't really know what I was.
Well, I can agree with you there. I think growing up with gay people in TV or on television, you had Hollywood from Mannequin, right? Yeah. And I'm trying to think of all the role models, not role models, but the characters that you would. It was always like a character.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. It's funny because my friend and I once were talking about Hollywood because I loved Mannequin so much.
Yeah.
But we laughed about it, and then he's like, "That's what our mothers thought we were when we were young and we were different."
Exactly.
Did you have your first experience in that town? Like what?
Yeah. Eventually, there was this one other kid in my high school, and we kind of like, we ended up like in the last part of senior year, we ended up fooling around. But it was a very strange kind of. It just was very. I don't think he could really connect with it, and I couldn't really. I don't know. It never didn't really happen again. So, but then I started meeting other guys in the area.
Okay.
I started going down to the college town, which was nearby, and kind of meeting guys that way. And so,
how long after high school did you went to these college towns? But how long after high school did you leave your hometown?
When I went to college, I was 17, going on 18. That's the last time I lived at home.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went to ISU in Bloomington Normal in Illinois, and then I transferred to U of I in Champaign. And then I finally ended up at U of I in Chicago for the nursing program, and I graduated with a BSN.
Family, like parents, still in touch with them?
Yep.
Okay, so good.
Yep.
But you just don't live there. Do you visit, or did they leave as well?
No, I visit all the time. Yeah.
All right. So you visit, you just don't live there anymore.
I don't live there anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you go back, What does it feel like?
It's I don't know. I'm always really grateful to get back to the city. Let's put it that way. I love to go out there and see my family and spend time with my family, but when it's time to come back home, it's time to come back home.
You get on that horse and you just...
And there's always this magical moment for me, like, because I live 2 hours out. My family lives 2 hours outside of Chicago.
Okay.
So when I am driving back into the city, like, and I'm like getting through the suburbs and I get into the city and then I like get to the end of the expressway where it turns onto Lakeshore Drive. And then all before me is downtown glittering.
Yeah.
It's just this moment of like, yes, this is why I live here.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so ignorant, by the way. I was like, your horse, like you don't have a car out there. Or... I just thought it was fun. Barebacking that horse. Where it comes from. All kidding aside, one of the things that we had spoken about off camera, off anything that I thought would be really, really, good to talk about and to like educate people that wouldn't know is, you had struggled with addiction in your life. When exactly did that happen in your life? Were you already in your nursing career?
I was actually in nursing school.
Okay.
So, as soon as I moved to Chicago, I was already kind of doing some party drugs. I was doing ecstasy and Special K. It was like 1994. And then I kind of found crystal meth kind of through that progression. And I really took to it. I was in nursing school, dating a Chicago cop.
Wow.
Yeah, we lived together. We discovered meth together. It didn't take long for it to destroy our relationship. Till I started struggling in school. It took me down kind of quick. I wasn't ready to give it up though. I mean, for me, there was this thing where all my friends, I was around all these circuit boys who seemed to be able to handle what they were doing. They were, they were professionals, they were lawyers and doctors and whatever. And, they were older than me, but, they would go out and do ecstasy once a month at a party and put it down. And for me, I think in my head, I thought that's what I was doing, but that's not what I was doing. I was doing crystal meth every weekend. And then the weekends got longer and, the weekend started on Thursday and ended on Tuesday. And then, I was getting one night of sleep a week. And, yeah. So I ended up having to go to treatment. But I still wasn't really ready to get sober. I was just doing it to kind of save my ass at the time, save my nursing career. I continued, eventually I did what I needed to do and got, graduated and got my license and was an RN for a couple years, but I started using meth again in the time. And, I lost my nursing license after 2 years.
Wow.
So, and that wasn't enough to get me sober. I used for like 6 more years before I finally got arrested. I got arrested because I got caught with 2 pounds of meth.
Jeez.
I was muling across town for my dealer. And they put me in jail, in Cook County Jail. And no one was going to bond me out because everyone was sick of my ass by that time. And that's kind of when I went through a change. I was looking at what I thought was going to be 12 years of prison time.
Oh, jeez.
12 years. And I just knew that my old life was over. I just knew that that was the end. And I kind of thought, well, I don't know if it's going to do any good, but maybe if I try to get sober and really do it and really mean it, maybe some miracle will happen. And it kind of did.
What, how long was your stay?
So I was in Cook County Jail for 6 months.
Okay.
My parents were not going to pay my bail. They didn't have the money to pay my bail, even if they had wanted to. But, after I'd been in jail for about 3 months, I kind of transferred over to the treatment program that was in the jail. And I stayed there for 3 months. And about 2 months into that, my parents were like, all right, we are going to give you one more chance. Don't blow it. And so they bonded me out. And that was my chance.
Yeah.
And so I was still fighting my case. I knew I was still facing all that prison time. But here I was. Now I was a free man, or at least free for the time being.
What did that feel like?
Well, it was scary. It was kind of like, all right, well, what do I do? I have 6 months of sobriety under my belt. I now have the freedom to do what I want. I may have to go to prison for 10 years, 12 years. Do I use this time? Do I just go get high and say this is my last shot of doing that? Or do I really, really try to like live a different life? And I chose the latter option. So I just dove into meetings, dove into 12-step recovery stuff, and kind of built a new life for myself. And that 2 months of being on bond turned into 3, and then turned into 4, turned into 6, turned into a year, turned into 2 years. So I was out for 2.5 years. And in this time, sober the whole time, my life just started getting better. I started accumulating money in my checking account, something I'd never had for the 15 years I'd been a drug addict. I started having relationships with friends, and I started going to dinner and going to movies and participating in life. And I really hadn't done that for like all the time I was using drugs. My world using drugs consisted of getting high, watching porn, jacking off, having guys come over who I would have sex with for a minute, and then we'd be on our computers or doing whatever. You know, it's very tweaky, never in the sunlight. It just wasn't life. It was just that. And it just felt like I was now re-engaging with life again. So I kept fighting my case, and eventually they came down to a 9-year plea. And I realized they weren't going to go any lower than that. So I took my guilty plea for 9 years and went to spend 3.5 years in minimum security prison.
Wow. So even after all that, they still had you, 9 years and then 3 on good behavior, or? Well,
so in Illinois, when you get a 9-year sentence, you have to serve 4.5 years. And I had already served half a year in county. So they count that off. And then I would have had to serve 4. And then I got an extra 6 months off for good behavior. So, so I did a total of 3.5 in the Illinois Department of Corrections.
A little different than the actual, like a prison, right?
No, that's prison.
Okay, so it was a prison.
It was prison, but minimum security. So.
Okay. So you got to do stuff, you got to...
Yeah. So there wasn't a lot to do. It was very boring, but whatever there was to do in there, I would take advantage of. I participated in meetings in prison. We had Toastmasters. I don't know if you're familiar with what that is. Toastmasters is usually business people use it. It's a public speaking club.
Okay.
It's a club, and it's a program that kind of helps people prepare, and it helps them improve their public speaking ability.
Okay.
So that was actually just something that's super beneficial for me in prison. So we had that, and then I had a job, and the years flew by. Not as fast as I would have liked them to, but they did.
When you finally got out and all of this was behind you.
Yeah.
What year are we talking now?
2015.
So 2015. Okay. So this is rather recent.
4 years ago.
In my entire life, I've been put in a holding cell for a day and I almost went nuts.
Yeah.
So when you said, when you said 6 months, I was like, that's a long time. But then, you mentioned the 3.5 years. What did it feel like to finally come out and just be like, that's it. This whole thing is behind me. Because you were on a good path. You were.
Yeah. It was amazing. I mean, it was just, it's one of the happiest days in a guy's life, I think, is the day their family comes to prison to like take them home. Yeah. It's just a great feeling, And, I took the first 6 months of because I was on parole then. I took this first 6 months of that time to actually go home and spend some time and live with my family for a while. It was nice because I knew that my eventual goal was to go back to the city, but, my family and our relationship had been repaired. So now I had this opportunity to kind of live in their world and be a part of their daily life for a while, which I hadn't had since I was growing up. So, it was never meant to be forever, but it was just nice. It was nice to spend some extended time with them.
From 2015 to 2018, right? You're sober, you stay sober, you are sober. Being in the industry, or being in an industry that unfortunately does have issues with drugs and issues with partying, and just being, the nightlife is just such a big part of it. Yeah. How is that? How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I don't really begrudge anybody their personal choices. Certainly not everyone using drugs is a drug addict. Some people handle what they're doing pretty well. Others really don't, but that's really not any of my business. I feel like I'm glad that I kind of got into this industry with so much sobriety under my belt. I think I'm 10 years sober now. So I think I had 8 years before I got into doing this. So that's a lot of time, and it's a lot of, I don't know, it's like a firm foundation in recovery before walking into this world. And I mean, there have been moments of temptation. I mean, there certainly are, you're right. I mean, this is a nightlife based industry, and, but I have certainly found my fair share of other actors in recovery, a lot of people in this business, who are, they're just not addicts. They don't have addict behavior, or they're in recovery themselves. I mean, there's a lot of us. There's really a lot of us. And I tend to gravitate towards those guys more than the ones who are about to go off the rails. And unfortunately, I do see those guys. I've worked with some guys, and it's kind of like, they're super sweet and they're sexy, but like sometimes it's just like, girl, I hope you can hold this together, because.
Do you ever like want to step in and just, or is that not your business?
No, I just kind of let people know what I'm about, and then, they're free to talk to me about it, and I try to like live by example, if that makes any sense. So, but not try to push it in people's faces. It's kind of like, it's not the right choice. What I've chosen for me is not the right choice for everybody, and I respect that. But I just kind of do what I'm doing, and and if they ask me questions, I'm super honest about it.
Cool.
So
I appreciate you sharing that with me, because that's awesome. It's not awesome, but it's real.
Yeah.
Or in the best definition of the term awesome, because it does inspire awe. It's like, wow, like you went through that, you've gotten out of it. And you're still here, and you're still doing your thing, and mentioning being in production and enjoying it, and knowing like, wow, like being in the moment and saying, I'm glad that I'm getting to experience this.
Yes.
Like says so much about everything that you've been through and where you are now. So,
I mean, think about how many guys out there want to be doing this and are getting to do this, and I just feel super lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, it came to me late in life, and I'm kind of glad that it did. And, I know it won't last forever, but I'm just really enjoying this ride, really enjoying it.
Good. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I just wanted to say that before we venture into it. You're in New York for a party. This party that you're going to is tonight.
It's tonight.
Okay. Tonight at 8 to 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. 8 to 12. It's called Fornication. Okay. It's a sex party thrown by my good friend, Ray Dalton.
Sweet. And what's going to happen at this sex party? What happens at sex parties?
Well, people will be having sex, and people will be having sex with me.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So if you guys are interested in New York, you can get a chance to have sex with Jake Morgan. Yes, you can. And a couple of other porn stars that are going to be there, right?
Killian Knox will be there. Luca Demore will be there, and of course Ray Dalton.
Okay.
So yeah, it's going to be a fun time.
I have to say that from my time doing this, you have to be one of the sweetest guys that I've ever worked with. So I do. I enjoy having you come on set. I enjoy working with you. And now talking with you. So I have to say, like, if you're a studio head or anybody listening, Jake Morgan is fucking amazing. He's such an awesome guy to work with.
Thank you. I always love working with you too.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I like the way we can bounce off each other. We're going to do a scene tomorrow for my first, Treasure Island film, which is going to like glamorize motels and shit like that. So it should be a lot of fun. On that note, I want to thank you very much. I've taken up a good amount of your time. I want you to go out and enjoy New York. Let it invite you. Let somebody spit in your face and push you on the floor.
You've been watching Demystifying Gay Porn. I am your host, Ike Grande. Demystifying Gay Porn can be found on every podcast directory as well as YouTube. Demystifying Gay Porn is on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Telegram. If you like what you're watching and want to be a part of the process, head over to patreon.com/demystifyinggayporn. where you can help this YouTube channel and I can continue making content like this. Once again, this is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped you get off. Cheers.